Hello and welcome back to another edition of our Power BI Monthly Digest. My name is Manuel Quintana.
And I'm Devin Knight. And this month, the month of March, we're going to be getting into some really fun stuff in the Power BI desktop, this release they have. We're going to find some new things that were previously preview or are now becoming generally available.
Yep.
We're also going to see some things changing on the modeling side, including a few new DAX functions, which is really exciting.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to see some enhancements to data visualizations that you're probably familiar with. As well.
Yeah,
so
that's probably a good place we can kind of kick off and start is on that piece. We'll do it right in the order of what we see in that. The report pane, the modeling, and then in that, of course, comes lastly, relationship.
Yeah, makes sense.
So in that world of visualizations, the enhancements actually come to, I guess you would say, an old favorite, right? I do often see this visual replaced a lot, customized, but still, the slicer is something that's been around forever. And it's perfect for what its intention is, right? To explicitly give us an option to apply a filter to our visuals. Well, they've added just a small element. It's aesthetic in nature to a degree around single selections. So what we can do is let's go over into the Power BI report, and I'll show you. This is going to be something that is available when we choose something for the list option for the slicer or the drop down.
Okay, all right, let's take a look.
So let's go over here. I'm going to go ahead and go over to our slicer visual here. We'll bring that in. And what we'll do is we'll do something pretty simple on, for me, in my data set, we have the calendar year. Let's bring that in. Calendar year. By default, you can see it's doing the range slicer, of course, the between. Yeah. So if I go ahead and switch this down to list, not the most attractive option. Usually people kind of divert from just doing it this plain and simple. Right. But while we're here, we can go into the format area. And now under the selection controls, we have this single select option that has the presentation is going to change, and you'll see that all of my multi-select options goes away, and I have very much this radial button type look and feel.
And I think the single select option has been there for a while. It's just they've changed the behavior now, so it has, like you said, more of a radio button look to it.
Yes, and as I mentioned, if we were to switch this to a drop-down, we are also going to see that when I hit that drop-down, I get presented with my available options, and it kind of minimizes, it collapses it once again.
Gotcha.
So same kind of functionality that we know and expect, but now a little radial button.
Nice. And like you said, this only exists in either the list or the drop-down view, right?
Correct, correct. For those two, you won't see it for the between or the greater than or after and all that other fun stuff.
Okay, cool. All right, so I think next we're going to be looking into a feature that has to do with storytelling. So those of you that maybe have worked with bookmarks, it's not really a bookmark feature, it's more of a selection pane feature we're going to be looking at. But one of the big things that people sometimes get aggravated with the selection pane is you have this big list of all of the objects that are in your report, and a lot of times they'll have very similar names, if not almost exactly the same. And then sometimes it'll be very difficult to be able to differentiate each one of them. So what's the change that we have this month in the selection pane?
Sure, and in this realm, there was pretty much a very common workaround for this. That you would have to go in, turn on the title option within the formatting area, give a title, and then if you didn't want it to actually be there, you would then have to disable it. This is the way that you would rename the items in the selection pane. Very runabout way, workaround, exactly what it's for. Now that's all gone. Now within the selection pane, you can very simply just double click on the item itself, and this will effectively be renaming its title. So some of the visuals that you're going to see in this example that I'm going to showcase to you guys, that they have already a title, so it is going to amend that. So what is seen in the visual tile, it's going to alter. But things like buttons, images, a majority like matrices, tables, they don't by default have a title on. So you won't see any impact here unless you're actively using it. But just do note that when we make this change, it is changing the value for the title option. So we can see we've got a couple here. Let me enable the actual selection pane here. We'll go into the view section and hit selection pane, which is going to bring up this extra little blade there. And as of right now, you can see we have 3 options. If I went ahead and just added, let's say, just for the sake of it, is a couple buttons here. And I'll get rid of these, but you can see this is the common issue, that if it's an image, it just says image, regardless of how many you bring in. And if it's button, it just says button, regardless of how many you have. Difficult to figure out what you need from hiding and showing perspective. So now all I need to do is say, this is my, even though I brought 2 right buttons in, I can say it's my left button. Simple, done, and taken care of. Now I can more easily identify what is going on with these items. And just to showcase, if I were to bring these buttons that I brought in over here, if we wanted to change this table, and I'm just going to copy what I have originally, but if I just did table name, just something that you can see, notice that the actual title itself that is presented to the user here is now visible and available. So it is actually affecting the title itself.
So this might also be nice. I mean, kind of thinking of it as a side help here, is if you did have a bunch of visuals that you wanted to change the title of all at once, you could, in theory, it's not intended for this, but you could, in theory, use this pane, the selection pane here, to be able to change the titles of a bunch of visuals all in one place.
Yeah, actually, absolutely you could. So you can go through here, and I mean, this area is just nice. We had the capability of reordering things, but the main thing here is hiding and showing.
Yeah.
Hiding and showing, especially as we start to dive in, as you mentioned, when you get into that digital front and you're really trying to make these, anything that will increase the effectiveness or the ease of that process is going to be great. And this is a simple addition that was, I mean, the community was kind of requesting this. Anyone who was using bookmarking and selection pane, they were mentioning this, so it's great to see. Very simple implementation. It's here. It's now available.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Nice little add-in.
All right, cool. So I think the next one we have is another interesting little add-in. So we've seen over time the tooltip section of visuals change quite a bit, right? You had several months back, almost 9 months or so. I don't know, 10 months maybe.
It's been a little bit,
Yeah, you had the report page tooltips come out, which were a nice addition to allow you to have things pop up or replace the default tooltips. But this month they've actually released and updated the default tooltips, so not the report page ones, but the default ones where you have some additional capability of formatting beyond what was normally there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As we all know, it was one of the nicest built-in elements of Power BI is you have a visual, whatever you put in there, users can hover over it and you get a tooltip. Great functionality. And with all the enhancements that we've had across the board for formatting, for backgrounds, wallpapers, conditional formatting for columns and bar charts, it just makes sense that now we also have the capability of formatting the actual tooltip that presents itself. So just in case, if we go back into the report here, if we remember, right, you just hover over, you have this traditional black background with, in this case, like a lightly gray item, and then the value of it is in this white text. Right. All of that is now configurable.
Oh, nice.
All we need to do is, as we do, we select the visual in question. I'm going to get rid of this selection pane here to give us a little more room. If we go to the formats, this tooltip area is going to be right here. So we had this before, we could turn it on and off. But now, if we go down, we can see beyond the page and the type, which was there, is the label color. So if we were to say, let's make this red, and we can go with the value color. We'll just go with this color right here. And already, if I hover over here, you're going to see the changes that are going to come into play. We also have the capability of modifying the backgrounds, the text size, and also the font family. So if you wanted to change how it looks and styles, we now are in complete control of exactly how that's looking.
Nice.
So maybe if you are leveraging some other custom backgrounds with some sort of color theming, this can now follow into that theming kind of idea.
I like it. Even the transparency, there's all kinds of stuff you can change in there. Very cool.
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. So I think the next thing that we're going to look at, we're going to continue to stay more in the visual world a little bit. And we're going to look at how you can take things like buttons and images, and you can, just like you can make actions with that allow you to jump from one place to another in your reports, we want to be able to use actions to be able to jump to a URL, which wasn't previously available, where I want to be able to have maybe a button on my screen that when I click on it, it takes my users to a website where maybe it has some definition of what they're looking at.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, exactly right. With images or buttons, we always had that choice. We had the go to a bookmark option. You could do the Q&A, but now we're going to see there's a new one. So if I go ahead and I add in, let's just grab, I'll grab this help one here. Bring this into focus, so put it kind of in the open here. We can see that when I go now into the action section, which is something you do need to turn on, so let me turn that on here. We have back, which is default. We have the bookmark once you get into that digital storing element, the Q&A if you want to go to a specific one, and new and recently added, web URL. And all we need to do here is put in an available URL. So if I just put in something pretty simple, we'll go here. Got to make sure spelling's right. All right, and if we wanted something additional, so when we hovered over said item, our websites, something like that. Now, when users go here, they can hover over it, and they should have this little tooltip capability. When we're in the Power BI desktop, it doesn't display, but remember, we have to, there it goes, it's like temporarily showing. You have to hold that control key, and when we click, it's going to go ahead and take us to our website, which happened to pop up on my other screen here. So you can see still loading as proof that it went there. But now we can use buttons, images, whatever you prefer. There's now an action to go directly to a URL.
Nice. Nice. That's really helpful. All right, cool. So I think the next one, again, we're sticking with inside the data visualization world. What we're going to be looking at next is some enhancements to maps, right?
Oh, everybody loves maps.
Yeah.
Everybody loves maps, and this is an old classic.
Yep.
That original, it's called just map, but it's also referred to, I've seen, as the bubble map.
Yep.
The Bing map.
Yep.
This one here, what I'm referring to, is this just the globe icon. So this map item now has an additional option in the formatting area available and at our disposal. So let me just take up a little bit of room here. So if we go, I'm just going to go here and we can put in, I think I have here, postal code.
Yeah, there you go.
And we can put that in the location just so we can see it kind of getting and going and moving. And the additional feature now exists when we go into the format area right off the bat without digging anywhere. Heat map.
Wow, that's a nice update.
Yeah, everybody enjoys a good heat map, right? So we can see immediately upon modifying and altering it, we get that very traditional presentation of that heat map, showing those focused points there much more darker.
Now, can you do anything to enhance that, or is it kind of left like that?
We can. You can increase or decrease the radius if you like, just to have more of an impact there. As well, if we go down, you can see that we can change the gradient, basically stopping points.
Okay.
So at the lowest tier, that's like lighter color, which we have the darker, which we could switch to your more traditional kind of stoplight element, where you maybe go with your green, yellow, red traditional, so you can see that focus, right? So you can see as we go through.
I like that.
We get that expected behavior.
Yeah, so right now, people were having to go use other visuals, maybe third-party ones, things like that to be able to do stuff like this. Now that's all built in. Very nice capabilities that they've made available here.
Yeah, right into the map's awesome.
All right, so I think we have one more feature that's related to data visualizations, and this one has to do with improvements to Q&A. So many of you have worked with Q&A quite a bit. There's been some enhancements to Q&A to make it function a little seamlessly for your end users, right? So you want to make it so that they can get the best experience possible. And so what have they done to really improve Q&A?
Sure. What we can do is in the Q&A Explorer, they've added some underlying understanding of how we are typing in basically what's known as the utterance, what we're putting in the box for Q&A.
Yeah.
Now it's taking more into account where really we're talking about ambiguity here.
Okay.
So the idea is we had that ability to add already frequently asked questions, right? We had that feature added in a while ago where we wanted to drive our users to say, because they might not know what to type, right?
Right.
So we give them that capability. Well, now if they are in leveraging this, it will kind of give us two options. Basically saying, did you mean, or showing results for.
Okay.
So we're going to see, depending on the degree of ambiguity, like how off they are on the terms that are leveraged and things like that, we can see one of those two messages to assist the user into potentially looking at the results that they were expecting to find.
Nice. Very nice.
So yeah, so what I can do here is, in this visual, we got a little bit of room here. We can go ahead, I'm going to grab Q&A, bring this down into this last little spot here, and inside of this, we'll go ahead and click this. We can start to type out our question. So right off the bat, if I'm just going a little bit too quick here, let's see, and I start misspelling this right off the bat, we can go ahead and see that this is indicating and finding, I mean, obviously what I've written is nothing as part of our data set, but it's able to figure out that did you mean, recognizing that it is close enough to a field that is this what you wanted instead? And I can say sure, and it'll populate that.
Nice.
And if I wanted to, if we go, you'll notice as I start to type, we have this second item. So if I was moving through and here I'm like, oh, you know what? I cannot remember what this is for. What else I'm trying to do. So you can see blue products has been picked out of my data set. And as I'm moving, which shows grade in the utterance whenever it's something that's not specific to the data set, it's telling us showing results for blue products. So if I were to say, let's say, misspell this, it's going to recognize what we're talking about and saying, because it's less ambiguous, it can kind of figure out, it's so close to what I want, it's saying, here, I'm showing you the blue products by year.
Okay.
That's what it's already displaying. You can always click on this to rectify that item, and it will present it as such.
So it's trying to, here it's making an assumption of what you, what it thought you should mean versus trying to confirm with you, hey, is this really what you wanted to see? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So you can see one of those two messages depending on the degree of ambiguity that you have.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right, cool. So now we're going to talk through kind of a list of a couple features that, at least one right now for the moment, that have gone GA. And it's a feature that's been in preview for a long time.
Yeah.
That you might have been playing around with. Likely at this point you have. but it has to do with dates, right? So what is this feature?
So we had that capability in the preview options where basically Power BI would create a default date hierarchy for you. It would grab a field that was that full date format, and it would create the year, the quarter, the month, and date off of that.
Okay.
Something that you could just turn on, and you would see it, and we have it in our data set, as we'll see in a moment, but it would just create that for you, said and done. So that is now GA. It is available, so that when you are there, it will go ahead and create a date hierarchy for you when you have a field that matches that criteria.
Nice.
Yep. And just as a reminder, I said this has been there. You guys have probably been leveraging it. But if we look just right here into our date table here, you'll see there's this icon that's represented on my full date alternate key, which is my column. And upon expanding it, it is simply just extracted this and put it into a date hierarchy with those respective items. So it's just gone through this process and created it. So very typically, a lot of times we create date tables that have this already done innately. We do this manually, but just in case, it'll do it automatically if you don't have this type of a breakdown.
Beautiful. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So the next set of features then have to do with DAX. So we have some new DAX features, and I think maybe the best way to describe these is let's go ahead and flip over to our screen here.
Yeah.
And you have a report here that has basically what's come out, right?
Sure. It's just a text body here that's just showcasing these available 5. Technically, it's going to be 3 new ones, pardon me, and 2 enhancements. As we can see, the top 2 relate to string values. And the difference between the 2 is simply just case sensitive versus case insensitive.
Okay.
So contained string is looking for a string value. So you have your search criteria, and then where are you going to search for it? And then what is returned is actually Boolean. So we're talking about returning either a true or false. Did we find this case insensitive value inside of the searched area?
So you would likely use this in combination with like an if or something like that to do some testing. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And the same result is returned for contains string exact, except this is case sensitive.
Gotcha.
Same exact item, just insensitive for the top one, and you can see naming convention, right? Exact means case sensitive.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then we've gone ahead and we can see that there's some additional functionality for the lookup value, a new optional parameter, which is an optional parameter we see in quite a few DAX functions, and that is the ability to set a value that will be returned should an error occur.
Okay.
So if an error is returned, what would we like to be instead of that, in lieu of that, if you will? Another extension is for the all function. The all function is, now as stated, it's just now if there are no arguments, all filter context will be cleared for whatever you put in that all, which the all can be either a table or a column. You can go specific. So now it just by default, you don't even need to put any arguments. It will clear all filter context around that.
Okay, nice.
And of course, the last new function is distinct count no blank, just like SQL. In Power BI, we have blanks versus traditional nulls. So here it's basically count with no nulls, count with no blanks.
Oh. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah. I think previously to do something like that, you'd have to write a little extra code. Now they've made it a lot simpler. Yeah.
Just very straightforward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I think the very last piece then has to do with the modeling. So we're going to be switching. DAX is part of modeling, of course, but we're going to be switching into and showing you a feature that came out in preview back in November, right? Yeah. So we definitely would recommend you taking a peek back at the November video if you want to see the details of what this capability is. But the feature that's going generally available this month is the new updated modeling experience. So yeah, what's changed there briefly, and then we'll kind of show it very briefly as well.
So for a little bit of there, if anyone was following with us from November till now, and you turned on this preview, you had this little oddity of having 2 relationship views. And the idea was always to move to have just one singular one, and we're at that time now. It's here. It's here with us in March. And this gives us the capability, just more user enhancements, to more easily move through some of those processes that we would do when we were in that relationship view. Multi-selecting columns is now available, where you can click cross-table as well.
It's a big help.
Yeah, you can multi-select whatever you're looking for and apply some sort of transformation to it. So if I wanted to turn off default summarization, if I wanted to take a bunch of items and add some sort of data categorization, maybe put a bunch of things and mark them as web URLs, we can go now and do that. And you're going to see a lot of the items that we might have gone to the modeling ribbon for when modifying specific items for a field, they're pretty much all available to us now in this relationship view in this section called Properties. As we select and choose any column, we're going to see that it gives us the name. You can modify synonyms, add descriptors. We can also add display folders. So you can have folders to group together columns. You can, once again, feels like, should it be hidden or not? Yes or no. data types, formatting types, and under advanced, we have those areas that you would find under modeling. Sort by a different column, data categorization, and default summarization. All of these.
It's interesting. I don't know if I'd necessarily consider those things advanced. Those are pretty normal features that you want to do, but yeah, I get it. We've kind of got it sectioned off there to split in some categories.
And a lot of times in the enhancements that we would do with this, we would do a couple things here in the relationship view, then we'd usually go over to, then we have to switch to the modeling ribbon to amend these things. But now it's all in one place, one location, so you can get all your kind of housekeeping elements done here, done in one shot. And the multi-selecting across multiple tables so that you can like do, apply whatever. Any of these options across all of them is awesome. Just going to save us time.
Oh, sure.
That's what it's going to do.
Sure. All right, great. Well, I think that's it for this month, right? We had quite a bit in the month of March. Maybe some smaller things, but bigger pieces becoming generally available that have been previewed for a bit. So a lot of exciting stuff happening there. As usual, make sure to comment below if you have any kind of things that you're most interested in and we want to hear about it. Also, feel free to make sure to subscribe. Make sure you continue to get these videos. And again, I hope you enjoyed this month's monthly digest. My name is Devin Knight.
Manuel Quintana, and we'll see you in the next month.
Thanks.